Hi, welcome back to the UK Medical Freedom Alliance. My name is Ian Humphreys and I'm very, very pleased to announce today that we have a great guest. Someone I spoke to some time ago, and it's really great to see him in person finally. It's Alex Mitchell, a vaccine-injured man. We're not going to dwell immediately on the injury, but we're going to talk about where we are today, and also about the Global Vaccine Injury Month, which began in October. Before we go over to Alex, just a little bit of housekeeping. Healthkeeping is also a good idea too, by the way. Please, if you do get the opportunity, go to our website, ukmedfreedom.org. The address is on screen for those of you watching in video. For those in audio, it's ukmedfreedom.org. There you can donate to the cause. You can help us by buying us a coffee. You can also get access to all of our podcasts from there, and also our leaflets, our open letters, our campaign details, etc. Everything we've been doing basically since 2020. You can get the podcast on Apple, on Spotify, YouTube. Well, as if YouTube decide they are going to leave us up this time, which would be very nice of them if they could perhaps manage that, because there's nothing we're going to be talking about that is untrue. But our favoured platform for video is, of course, Rumble, where our free speech is protected right now. That may change, by the way. There are things in the pipeline, so we'll see how that goes. But for now, let's go over and say hi to Alex. Hi, Alex.
Good morning, Ian. Hi, and thank you for the invite. Yeah, it's been a long time coming to we actually saw each other in person to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I can remember 2.5 years ago you contacted me.
It was in the very early days. It was indeed, yeah. And that was well before my involvement with this organisation. But as you know, then that we were looking at criminal investigations, and but we decided we weren't getting a lot of support from that side of the fence. So I've now moved over to the medical freedom side, so we can promote, campaign, lobby, and very proud to be part of this organisation, and we're going great guns.
And so you should be.
Yeah,
I'm proud of the stance that you've made over the last 3 years anyway.
Yeah.
It takes character, courage, conviction, morals, ethics and principles to do what you've done. Well, so keep doing what you're doing.
Well, bless you.
What happens is that people say to me, well done, congratulations, keep doing what you're doing. I don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I'm in a place where I've got no other choice. I've got two choices. I sit here and I turn and face the wall, or I do what I'm doing.
Right.
You don't have that. You have basically the morals, ethics and principles that you're adhering to, and that deserves more commendation than I get. I'm fighting for survival. You're making a moral choice. There's a world of a difference. And so to you and all the doctors, nurses, professionals, all the people out there that are actually trying to make a difference, that are being silent, censored, the way I am, thank you. Because we don't thank them often enough.
That's very nice of you. Thank you. It's very appreciated. It's a tough battle for everyone, and everyone's gone on their own path, and hopefully we're going to get there in the end, and then we can all discuss how we got to that point. But right now it's still a long battle, and the end seems a long way away, right?
It can do. It depends on how you look at it. I'm very positive in my outlook, and I try to look for what I can prove is a positive outcome or a positive influence, and always relate it to the fact that, people say this could take years. It has taken years, and it's going to take years. But I look at, if we go back to the thalidomide scandal, that took 40 years for it really start to kick off, and then another 20 years before they resolved it, so 60 years. Well, we've kind of narrowed that 40 years down. We've managed to get it acknowledged, accepted, recognised and confirmed in 15 months.
Yeah. I tell this story frequently, but I just missed the thalidomide. I was born in 61. It was withdrawn in November 61. And I remember my great uncle putting his hand on my knee once in a train and telling me I was a lucky boy. I didn't understand what he meant until I asked my mum, because I was confused about why all of a sudden I'm a lucky boy. And it was exactly that, because she turned it down. She was offered to her and she turned it down. Yeah.
So many. And I think that's one of the biggest eye-openers that's destroyed my belief in where humanity has been going for the last 60, 70 years, is because cycles like this has been happening. Yeah. And because it's been happening in little pockets all over the world, it's not really being recognised as a massive problem until it's way, way too late.
Right.
We're way beyond that.
Well,
we can't do this time.
Yeah, this time it is global, and everyone can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a brief history of how you came to be in this situation. So you took an injection, which I guess we can say now was coercion, but probably I don't know whether you felt that was true at the time or not. But we'll go into further detail. But then you fell ill, seriously ill, almost died, and then you had your leg amputated, and your life changed immeasurably. I mean, it will never be the same again. So you were a bass player?
I was, yeah.
Music room here. Something else we have in common.
Well, the story was I wasn't actually a bass player. I was always a campfire acoustics drummer.
Oh, right.
And the scooter club that I'm in, and we had a large group at that point. There was a couple of lads in there. One of them was actually in a very successful band in the scooter scene, the mod scene already. And he had just left that band. I think he had sort of travelled its course with them and maybe he'd bumped out a little bit. But within 6 weeks, he realised, I want to do something else. And him and a couple other guys started, and they phoned me and said, you can play guitar, can't you? And stupidly I said, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So I got roped into playing bass, and I'd never picked a bass up before I joined a band. I feel a bit like it kind of takes me back to the punk era. Guys just got together and started messing about, made a sound and called it a band. And that's what kind of felt like, I've always felt like a bit of a kid on when it came to music.
Oh, yeah.
Because in reality, I'm always been just a campfire strummer.
Just a busker, a Jerry Rafferty.
Yeah, I'm not even that good, I can sing a couple of songs, right, barely, and get away with it, But when you're drunk, or I don't really drink, but when other people are drunk, you sound great, don't you?
Of course, yeah. And you can repeat the same song over again, and they've got no idea that's what you've done.
Yeah.
So a bass is a bit heavier than an acoustic guitar.
Oh wow! The first one I was given was an Epiphone, and it was actually a boy that was in a rock band, and it was one of these kind of diamond-shaped things, with a triangle. And honestly, I could not. I'm a scaffolder. I'm used to lifting 5 ton of steel a day on this left shoulder. Put a bass guitar on it for 3 hours. Oh, good Lord, the weight is incredible. I was never so glad to get off the bass.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I brought it up, because it's clearly you were a very, very fit guy, and you've got to be fit to stand there for a few hours with a bass guitar around your neck. And you've got to be very, very fit, as you say, to be lifting steel and scaffolding poles and putting scaffolding up and scaffold boards, etc. I mean, this is heavy work, fit work.
Yeah.
You were also a martial artist too, right?
I was, when I was very younger. I retired a long time ago. I actually started life as a boxer.
Okay.
I was about 10 and a half, 12 or something, around about that age when I got introduced to boxing. And I don't know why. Maybe it's the fighter in me, because I've always believed in that fight or flight. Yeah. I just loved it. Mm. And I know I shouldn't be saying things like that, but yeah, I loved it. And then when I got introduced to martial arts, I didn't do it to learn martial arts. I did it because I seen how good they were at the suppleness and the stretching. And I thought, that's got to help in a boxing ring. And that was why I started. And then I found this sports karate. And it was like boxing, but you could use your feet.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not going to lie. For someone who enjoyed rolling about the streets and loved a good scrap, it was a for me, it was a perfect combination. And yeah, I got to be a far better martial artist than I ever was a boxer. But if you ask me what I am, I'll say I'm a boxer. I don't know why. You think it would be other ways. So yeah, I was really good because I got to a very good stage at the martial arts, you know. And they only had one rule: no hitting above the neck deliberately.
Right.
That could be interpreted so many ways.
Well, I'm going to say, yeah.
Yeah, you know, these looks aren't natural. I took a lot of second prizes. Oh, yeah, and I loved it for what it was. And then obviously scaffolding, it takes a special breed. I realised that I think probably about 4 hours into the job that these guys are a special breed. These are machines. And to watch a proper good scaffolding squad go at it, working. I've actually had people from street, you know, watching from the houses, passing us in the shops and saying to us, we love watching you guys. It's like watching a coordinated ballet. And that's always stuck with me, you know, that image of us and tutus dancing on the scaffolding, putting the scaffolding together.
That's an image I might not be able to get out of my head now.
Well, neither can I, so that's why I try and impart it to as many people as I can. But yeah, and I loved the job. And at 56, I was 12 and a half stone. I had less than 5% body fat. And I was very proud of my body because it had every right to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And work-wise, I'm not here to brag, but I can guarantee you that I outworked guys a third my age,
right,
who would challenge me.
Yeah.
Because it would happen. Scaffolders have got this arrogance about them. We've all got it. It probably comes across when I talk quite a lot. That it's because they know they can walk the walk, so they talk the talk. So they call each other out, and it's a game, you know, and that's why you see them going at the speed they go at. It's a challenge. So it's not the first time I've had two 20-year-olds go, we're going to outrun you today. Yeah.
And they didn't.
No. By lunch, it'd be tea time, they're sitting in the canteen looking as if they've done 3 days' work and haven't broke sweat yet. Mm-hmm. And I was proud of that fact, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a thread going right through your life. You're a mega fit guy, basically. And
I always thought, yeah, I looked after myself, but it's funny you mention that. I got a comment from a guy on TikTok that I actually started school with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he comes from the East End, where I come from, and he posted a lovely comment the other night. He said, Alex was always one of the fittest guys in the East End of Glasgow from school. I just had always this desire to be, I don't know, fit. I always wanted to run faster than anybody else. Coming from the East End of Glasgow, that wasn't just necessarily something I desired, something I needed quite a few times. And I always trained, and I suppose because I boxed, it gave me that discipline to a certain extent, and the martial arts certainly really disciplined me. And I think the final polish for that was the scaffolding. When you realise just what you are capable of, you have to sort of take a step back and be careful with it. And that's not being arrogant. I've seen scaffolders fight. It's not a pretty sight.
No, I'm sure.
It's funny, but it's not pretty.
And then it all stops abruptly. Which is a hell of a hit into life, right?
Yeah. I'm going to say, I've said this previously, that the week I spent in isolation, while it was probably, that was a path that nobody should ever go on. It did me more good than I realised, because it gave me a week to try and get into my head. Not just what had happened, but what I was going to have to do in so many ways. And I think that's where that comment comes from. You don't know how strong you are till it's all you've got. And I do vividly remember saying to myself, you know, when they told me that when I come round for the 7.5 hours, and I shouldn't have been here, and that there was going to be an amputation. I asked for 15 minutes. God knows what I thought I was going to achieve in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But it was just, I think I needed people out of the room just so as I could try and process what just sledgehammer news had just been given to me. And the first thing I thought was, you're going to have to really be strong. You're going to have to be different. And the only difference, I mean, is by going from being a fighter when you had to be, you're going to have to fight for every second right now.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of came. People ask me how I got through it. It's not because I processed everything that was going on. It was I was taking it at the start. Take this in a minute. Let's just deal with this minute by minute. Took that to 15 minutes and tried to build that up. Is that successful for me? Mostly. Every so often, yeah, the ladders, somebody's greased the pole and I go way back down again. And that's been the common theme, you know, whether it be health, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. It's just trying to keep that on the curve of positivity, because it's so easy to fall back into the blackness.
But the physical fighter is also a mental fighter too. So therefore, you've not lost that fighting spirit, have you?
Oh no! All I've done is given it an accelerant that they can't put out now.
Right.
And I use this analogy all the time. You've probably heard me say it. In my eyes, I've done two things wrong here. Ultimately, pissed off a Scotsman and pissed off a Scottish scaffolder. Mm-hmm. And I know what I'm like. My mother didn't call me the most thrawn, stubborn, awkward bastard she'd ever clapped her eyes on. And that wasn't always said with love. That was said with power at the times. And my mother was a very, very strong character. And I kind of know where I got some of what's in me from. What woman? Sorry.
No. They're the most important people in our lives when they've got that kind of strength as well.
She gave me what? She gave me this.
Yeah.
She gave me this character of you need to be moral, you set your morals, your standards, your ethics, principles. Because that's what she did. She led the example. She was a very, very clever lady and so witty. You know, this woman, she cut you in two, but you laughed while she did it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. She was vicious when she wanted to be, but there was so many laughs, and her attitude to life was, and she, it was a very hard life for her. She brought 5 children up on her own, and she was a dux of her school and could have done anything with her life, but because of circumstances, worked in bars and pubs. 60 odd years she worked in them.
Wow.
Yeah, she was an absolute legend in the East End. She was a no-nonsense, lovely barmaid. You wouldn't want to mess her off. And everyone had so much respect for her. You know about the troubles that's always been in Glasgow about religion. I'll give you an analogy, or not an analogy, this is a true fact. We were a Catholic family that moved from a Catholic area into a Protestant area. My mother was buried out of Bridgeton. And on the day of her funeral, the people of Bridgeton lined the streets.
Wow.
That was just a beautiful sign of respect. She stayed 100 yards from a shop, literally across the road, and it could take her 2 hours to go and get the papers in the morning.
Oh, stop!
She knew everybody, and that was always her attitude. You know, life is hard. It is what it is. If you can change it, change it. But if it's in the past, you cannot change it. So it is what it is. You can either deal with that or not. That's your call. But if you don't deal with it, it's going to still be there when you come back. And that kind of has always been the way we were brought up. It is what it is.
It's very clearly manifested itself in you, undoubtedly.
Yeah, because I'm very much of, if I can't change something that isn't possible to change, then I need to either deal with it or not. And I suppose, yeah, I'm entitled to, I suppose, in many ways, and justified if I want to turn my head round into the corner and just give up in the world. But then I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world.
You wouldn't be happy doing that.
No, because I would have sold out everything that I set out to achieve as an individual, as me.
Yeah.
You know, I set my morals, my ethics, my standards, my principles at the age of 17. But I really had been living those values to a certain extent in my head. But at the age of 17, I made a commitment, and I call it being a mod, but it's my version of what being a mod is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's that, if you're going to dress to the level that I dress, I don't mean today, this is my casual, telling you the world my truth. But you've seen me when I go out, I'm a three-piece suit guy, shirt and tie, everything down to the last bit. So being a mod is dressing to the best possible standard, highest you can be. Therefore, you should apply that same attitude to your entire life. Because I want to be the best possible version of me that I can be at all times, not just when I'm dressed. Do I get that right? No, I fail every single day. But the difference is I get up every single day and I chip away at something else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I believe at the age of 56, I got to that place in life where I was perfectly content. It wasn't about money. I'd done things that no guy gets to do.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be in a band. It was in the scooter scene, it was a very successful band. We headlined my favourite scooter rally. You know, school dream stuff, you know, boyhood stuff. Yeah. I was never a football player. I was going to say I had 2 left feet, but I've not even got 1 left feet anymore. But that's how bad I was. You know, I was me, and there's a friend of mine called Joe McKinnon, and the two is free, I'll admit, we're the worst 2 football players that ever came from Glasgow. Because, you know, when they all got together and have a kickabout, we were the last 2 guys, always. Nobody wanted us, that's how bad we were. So, you know... I
think it's something else we've got in common as well, to be honest with you. It's terrible.
Oh, but, you know, as I say, it was more about, if I was going to live my life that way, I can't change because I was selling out. And that is something I know I can't live with.
So using that strength then, so you've obviously been, in your own way, campaigning and doing a hell of a lot of work, doing a lot of appearances like this on podcasts, and you've been on TV. How's that going for you? Do you feel like you're making progress? And
yeah, I think we've made incredible progress. I didn't set out to be doing podcasts and things like that, as you know. I only set out in the beginning to find other people like me, because I was told that I was the first in the world to survive with the level of wit that I have. You know, so that's pretty rare in any way, shape or form. And then within 2 weeks to find that those numbers weren't quite true, and the numbers in the UK. So that was initially what I set out to do. And I knew that the only way I could do it was by calling people out.
Right.
And that's when I started, you know, I was calling doctors, scientists, media, mainstream media, reporters, anyone I thought that was relevant to try and raise awareness. And eventually I started, you know, I think the first thing I ever did was the live TV was Sonia Poulton. Okay. And I'll forever be grateful for Sonia, because she saw something and reached out to me. And it kind of kicked off from there. My Twitter then started to sort of slowly go from 34 to 167 or something. And then in the December of 21, that's my twin tweet on Twitter, my pinned tweet on Twitter. I put that out, and the world went crazy. And I've now accepted that this is what my life is now. Try to raise awareness for the 3 things I set out to achieve, and I've not stopped. I've not added to that. I've not taken that away, because I've not achieved any of them yet, which is proper help and support for the vaccine injured and bereaved. Stop these things, because there's clearly a problem, and keep my way for children. I've never told an adult what to do. It's not my nature. But children's a different story. I'm genuinely prepared to put my life on the line for your children.
Sure.
Because my life's finished.
Have you,
theirs is just beginning.
Have you had anything to do with the COVID inquiry?
Yes, I'm actually part of the Scottish Vaccine Injury Group. Excuse me, which is a group that myself, Ruth O'Rafferty and John Watt set up for the Scottish COVID inquiry. So we're also part of the UK COVID inquiry, which I was down there for on the 23rd of September. Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. That was so many emotions, particularly for myself, because I've always felt, and I always put things into boxing analogies, I take things as a round at a time, a fight at a time. Well, the fight was to get recognition and acknowledgement on the record. Well, we've achieved that with both the Scottish COVID inquiry and the UK COVID inquiry. It's now on record. We're not irrefutable. We can't be denied. No, not that you ever could deny me, because I'm the one man in the world that you can't deny, refute or dispute.
Was the experience different in the Scottish one compared to the one in London?
Oh, massively. The Scottish one, the treatment, not the treatment from the people, the staff, I'm talking the press, was absolutely disgusting.
Wow.
I actually got very angry, and basically there's a clip of me basically telling them that they should all be ashamed of themselves and hope their conscience haunts them for the rest of their lives. Shame on you. Because they took pictures and interviewed every other group that was there.
Okay.
And ignored the Scottish Vaccine Injured. We approached them, John approached them, Ruth approached them. They agreed to speak to us. And I was actually standing beside John, and John said, "There's Alec there." He said, "I've got to go." He said, "But you stay there." And that's at the point I get very angry. Luckily, they got Alex, the representative of the Scottish Vaccine Injured and Bereaved, and the UK Vaccine Injured and Bereaved, and Alex, the injured person, try to get help and support, and not Alex, the scaffolder.
Right.
That's how angry I was.
Yeah.
But I've learned that, I'd have felt great after 2 seconds of throttling them. Wheelchair or not, if I got a hold of you, you ain't getting away. That was a personal insult beyond belief. To do that to my face, to actually gaslight me to my face like that. For an East End boy, he's a very lucky guy, both of them. But that's another story. So, but the difference was that the UK one was far more receptive, where our lawyer had a voice, which was massive. Well, KC was Anna Morris, and she was. There was none of us that wasn't in tears sitting there that day, and I think it was a mix of the emotion of the day, the energy that it took us all to get there, the energy it took us just to actually, because me and John couldn't fly, so we had to drive down from Glasgow. Basically, the funny story about that for me was, me and John must have become the only 2 Scotsmen that went down to Wembley to watch Scotland play England in Scotland. I could, because our hotel was literally a stone's throw from Wembley Stadium.
Right.
And I laugh at things like that. It's small ironies. I look and go, insanity of our life. I would never have travelled down to London to see Scotland play England. Never mind go down to London to watch them play up in Scotland.
Right, yeah.
And then obviously we had the inquiry. The press were very good with us, those that did speak to us. But something changed that day for all of us. I think it was a release valve. That's for me. That's fight one over.
Mm. How did the panel respond to you?
I think people were shocked because our KC used people's names, told people's stories, showed the true reality of what it is. People ask me what I do this for, why I'm doing it ultimately. I said it to my two daughters. What choice do I have?
Mm. Do you think it was the first time they'd heard the story then? Were they acting as if this was all new stuff to them?
Some of them, I think it was. Because the way I look at it is, I think there's about 40% of the population don't realise what's going on. Mm. Because they're watching mainstream media, they're not seeing the truth, and they're walking about in their lives happily doing what they're doing. And fair play to them. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I'm a bit jealous of that innocence. Because I would rather be them as knowing what I know.
I said exactly this to my friend the other day. I said, I've got so many friends with heads in the sand and I really wish I could just stick my head next to theirs.
Yeah. I want to be, I want to be that innocent. Mm. And I do feel a bit guilty to a certain extent, trying to shatter that illusion for many people. But I don't have a choice. Because I'm not getting any help and support.
I think the problem doing that is that when it hits them, it's going to hit them even harder. And that's the problem. So we need the awareness there.
The problem that we've got is that you've got groups like VIB UK, groups like UKCV Family, the Scottish VIG. This is all vaccine injured people. Mm. Some of us in the most horrific places you can imagine, trying to hold together up to 2,000 people. Mm-hmm. That's just what's came forward so far.
Yeah.
We started for the Scottish COVID inquiry with 8 people that went within a couple of hours to 16. Mm. We're now at 200 plus, 260 I think is the total numbers. Mm. Now these are all groups that are very vetted. Not because we don't want people in, it's because people that are in the places we are need somewhere safe where they can vent what they're feeling. Yeah. Because we're in no man's land. I said this yesterday. For the first time in history, you've got a group of people that no one has got any interest in. We get it from the pro-vaccines because we're talking about a vaccine. We get it from the anti-vaxxers because we took a vaccine. We get it from the media because we're talking about it. We get ridiculed and labelled by the government because we're going against their narrative. The general public see one side of the story because we're labelled as misinformation or conspiracy theories, and that opens the door for abuse. Mm-hmm. Now, we're up to nearly 60, I think it's 16 people over the last 3 years that have committed suicide. Mm-hmm. We have people on a weekly basis that we are suicide watching.
Right.
Including ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Tough.
And these groups are getting closed down because we're not allowed to talk about our vaccine injury.
And the media shut us down as well. So, I wasn't joking when I said at the beginning of this, if this video actually stays up on YouTube. I mean, this is what we're experiencing now. And then
I'm the most censored man in the world. And I can't, I'm a guy from the East End of Glasgow who's telling the truth.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's medically certified, government acknowledged. I don't state any figures that are disputed.
Right. Yeah.
Because for 3 years I've said the same statements and no one has shut me down. No. Now, either I'm very lucky, but I know I'm not. Because I have people contacting me telling me that the minute you put my name into YouTube, you're in bother.
Right. In terms of the government acknowledgement, so have you had compensation from the government?
It's not compensation. The Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme is classed as an award scheme.
Oh, really?
So,
congratulations, sir. I'd like to I didn't realise that you were an award winner.
Yeah. I wonder, you gave me an idea. Do I now get to put Alex Mitchell VDPS
Yeah.
at the end of my name?
You need to figure that. A statuette or something as well.
Yeah, I could think of a few things I need, but statuette's up, not the top of that list. Yeah, I was the first. So there's a one-off payment award where it's no sliding scale. You have to prove it was most likely caused by a vaccine, and you have to be medically certified as at least 60% disabled. It's the most horrific criteria in the world. And the payout rate is absolutely horrific. Only 1.7% of awards, of claims, are ever awarded. Now, we've got nearly 7,000 claims in the last 3 years just for these COVID vaccines. So far, there's been 137 payments or awards of £120,000, a one-off. It doesn't get any more, it doesn't get any better. It does affect your benefits. Yeah, if you're on certain benefits, it affects your benefits. It's farcical. It's absolutely farcical. So I'm the first living man in the UK to be acknowledged by the British government, or the first living person. The first person to be acknowledged was a lady called Vicky Spitt, who lost her partner, Lord Zeon. She was the first person to be acknowledged around about first week, second week in June, and I was about 10 days later. That £120,000, what did that do? For me, it saved my house. I was days away from losing it.
Okay.
Because I'd went 10 months without any benefits. And by the way, all you're on is basic state benefits. There's no special set-up plan for this. There was no preparation for, do we put anything in place for special help in today's society? Or when we know this is going to go wrong because we're using a novel vaccine.
But you don't need that for something that's safe and effective, do you, Alex?
Well, the problem is the yellow card that's functioning just now is an updated version that was set up specifically for these. So therefore, if you're going to go to the level of knowing that there's going to be a higher risk of issues, adverse events, because that's clearly was expected. Otherwise, why would you enhance the current yellow card system in preparation for it? Because they knew it was coming. So you go to that level, and we've got to give credit for the logistics of the rollout of these vaccines and the way that they pulled all this together and they got the logistics together. So clearly an intelligent body has looked at this, but they got to the stage where knowing it's going to go wrong, what will we put in place to try and negate that? Because obviously we don't want vaccine hesitancy. All we'll do, we'll just add two words, COVID-19 vaccines, to an existing 1979 policy that wasn't fit for purpose. And it's tried to be reformed 4 times.
Right.
Very unsuccessfully, which also gives the pharmaceutical companies indemnity. So, we've pleaded with the government behind the scenes legally. Our legal representatives have been trying to deal with the government, trying to see if they'll come to the table, trying to sort this out. And we got the answer in Parliament from Rishi Sunak when he said, yeah, they have an option, they can litigate. But what he didn't explain was that this is a civil action, so therefore there's no legal aid. And where do people like me find the means to raise a civil action? Because the legal costs are estimated between 5 and 75 million. So really, is litigation an option? So basically they're saying, you're stuffed. That's wrong in so many levels. And I will go to my grave to try and overturn that result. Not for me. Doesn't matter how much money you give me. You can give me 2 billion, 10 billion. It ain't going to get me my leg back. Absolutely. It ain't going to give me my life back. So it's not about money for me. Yeah, I need money to live. But what I would like to see, and I do think when we get this into the court, and it's coming, The evidence is irrefutable. We know we're going to win it. Because how can a law say, right, the government have acknowledged it and accepted it. Some of their scientists actually helped verify it and certify it and classify it as a condition. So that's irrefutable. You can't find any fault in there. So there's no argument there. And it's been acknowledged already by the UK government because one of their departments of vaccine damage paint scheme has made awards solely on the causation of it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an educated man. I'm just a scaffolder. But if you tell me 2 and 2 is added together and it equals 4, and I've been taught that for day one, and I put 2 and 2 together and it comes to 4, there's no other place in the land that's going to come up with a different answer. The answer's still going to be 4. It doesn't matter what permutation you put it at, it's still going to be 4. So we know in my heart that when we get into that court, it's not going to. But put the blockers in place. 5 million. At 5 million, I wouldn't be doing this fight.
Sure.
Well, I certainly wouldn't be in Scotland either.
And these are class actions that are taking place, yeah?
They are. It's two companies. It's Scott and Moncrief and Horsfield and Moore. I'm with Scott and Moncrief, which is Peter Todd.
Oh, yeah.
Who, the strange thing of it is, I've known from round about the time you and I first contacted, that was about the same time that Peter and I started corresponding. Mm-hmm. And I've known since then that the court case was coming. I've always known it. And I couldn't say much.
Yeah, just a matter of time.
And people say, again, I'll go that, time. It depends on what your definition of time is, how you're relatively looking at it. Yeah, it's going to take years, but we're going to do something that's never been done before. Because what we are trying to do has never been done in the UK.
No. I think there's some chipping away in the States, isn't there? There's been some minor successes there, which, they're starting to make the holes.
I believe that a lot of this, not for AstraZeneca, the UK is I want to say the breaking point or the place for AstraZeneca to be brought down. Or one of the main ones, because it was created here, it was pushed here, it was highlighted, all that kind of stuff. I think America's the answer to the civil cases, because they've got a great history of litigation. We don't really. Plus the fact, let's be honest, our legal system is too closely aligned to our government system.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that me being paranoid? No, that's me being brutally honest. We can show historically.
Experience shows it. We had the same experience when we were taking the cases on, so we know that's how it works.
Yeah. So that's the answer for me, is that someone or some group in America get together and the funds are there, and the same happens in the UK. Mm-hmm. Because I know I don't have £5 million.
No.
But if people think I've been loud and I've done a lot over the last 2.5 years, you ain't seen nothing yet, I'll sell my soul to get that money. Because it's not about me. Because the answer to this is to find these companies an amount of money that's not worth their while.
So,
and I would do it from their personals, not the company's assets. I want it from their personal.
Yeah. So how are you doing personally now, health-wise? I mean, you can tell me as much or little as you like, but
health-wise, I'm probably as healthy as I can be at the moment, and that's a good thing. Unfortunately, I had massive issues with my stump area for about over 2 years. I'd been in pain for 24/7, and basically we spent 2 years trying to externally resolve a problem that could only really be resolved internally, for want of better words, because at that point it was made clear that I couldn't be operated on because my blood was too unstable. So it got to the stage where I was very closely facing life in a wheelchair without being able to wear a prosthetic leg, because effectively the muscle had come off the bone. So long story short, I saw my vascular consultant in April, late April, and she basically said at that point the only option is to remove 2 inches of bone, so effectively go through another amputation. In the hope that cures the nerve end issues and the problems, because effectively, because the muscle had come off the bone and the bone had moved, it was hitting internal scar tissue. And that was why it was 24/7 pain. I'm so glad that I'm not in that kind of pain anymore. You can probably see it by the look on my face, so I'm a lot happier than I always was. But the only problem was there was absolutely no guarantee of success, and it was very high risk. But she was prepared to take that chance if I was prepared to do it. And I went home thinking I had about 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks to think about it, because that's not something you can just go, yeah, no bother. You've got to think about that. And unfortunately, my wife had only just got out of hospital 2 days prior. There's a long story there. And I got a phone call basically on the Thursday at the bank holiday asking me to come in on the 30th of May for the operation. So effectively I had 4 days notice. And I had to decide by the Sunday whether I was going to go through with it or not. Did I think long and hard about it? Of course I did. But ultimately my thought process was, well, if I don't make it, I'll be under anaesthetic. It won't make a difference to me. The problem that I had with that was obviously my family would be left behind to pick up those pieces. But if I don't do it, I'm going to have to spend my life in that wheelchair. And I don't know if I can live with that. And that thought of you had a chance and you never took it. So I went in at 8 o'clock on the 30th of May, got 2 inches of bone removed, and was home again within 24 hours.
Wow. Amazing.
The only reason that happened was about, the next morning I've woken up and I'm thinking I'm going to be in for at least 3-4 days. That was what I had in my head. And the round ward was going on, and it turned out it was a vascular surgeon that amputated me. And he walked in, and he's obviously got a team of 15. And I said, Phil. And he turned around and he's just bear hugged me, and the two of us gave each other a big hug.
Lovely.
Lovely man. So he's kind of explained to all his team in medical terms why I'm there and what's happened to a certain extent. And he's just about to move, and he said, what can I do for you today, Alex? I said, send me home. And he looked at me and he said, have you had your bloods done? I went, not yet. And he said, well, if you get your bloods done, fair enough. And his whole team gasped. His whole team went, and he started laughing. He went, you got to understand. He said, this man knows this road. He's been on this path before, and he knows his body better than any of us does.
Right.
So I'm not going to argue with him, because it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. And he just started laughing, his whole team. So it kind of then explained to them that I was home within 8 days of being amputated, and I was in a gym within 8 hours of being amputated. You know, people think I'm some sort of a superhuman. It's not. A lot of that was the core strength from scaffolding to a certain extent, which eventually did burn out about 4 months later, which effectively led me on the downward slope for 2 years. So the operation so far has been a wonderful success.
Great.
I'm now back at physio. I can wear my prosthetic leg. The socket I've got just now is temporary, because obviously the swelling
can be redone as well, is it?
It was redone, but what happens is obviously a stump shape, as time progresses, it reduces, the swelling goes down, and it takes slightly different shape. So the one I've got just now is like walking about with a pair of size 9 shoes on, you wear a size 7. So
Yeah.
it's not quite doing what I need it to do, but it's working for me. And I'm at physio. My plan, and so far I'm on target, is to be walking by Christmas without sticks again.
Great.
Which is where I was 2.5 years ago. Yeah, because I was walking without sticks within the first 3 months of being amputated, and then the health went downhill. So yeah, other than that, the eye issue is where it is with the sight. I've got a couple of scans to get, one on my right calf, because obviously we know that this has destroyed other areas of my body, and I've got a real problem with constant cramps. Because the damage that's in there. And I went in a brain scan because we know there's brain damage there. Certain processes that were normal, for want of a better word, now they don't work anymore. I used to be able to remember numbers. Don't know why. Now, numbers and cognitive reading, I used to be able to read a report, a very in-depth report, speed read it and pick out what was relevant. I wasn't always a scaffolder, I was a business manager for 30 years. So years of that, knowing how to do that, that's all gone. Try to write an email or a letter or respond is sometimes, but I'm not the only one. So I'm waiting a scan to verify whether the damage is.
So I think it's important for people that are watching this to understand just the extent of what you've actually suffered from this injection. And
yeah,
it's probably a good time actually to so I think we've covered the current state. So let's go back then. Because I think now it's important to understand, for people to understand just how you got to this point, how you got here.
Yeah.
I know you've related it before, but I think we've got a slightly different audience, and I'm hoping we have. And one of the big problems with all of our organisations is trying to get outside the bubble. We tend to broadcast to the same people over and over again. But I'm
sometimes people say it's like preaching to the converted.
Right. Yeah.
And I get it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because most of the audience that are coming to see you are coming to hear you because they know a bit about you and they have a bit of support for you or something like that. That's not why I do stand in the streets. It's the passers-by.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware that I'm not only a very potent image. Once you see me, you can't unsee me.
No.
No, it's not. The mod in me doesn't like going out and doing it because I don't feel like that way. And because obviously, I wore a suit. Yeah. It's difficult to wear a suit if you're not wearing a prosthetic leg, and it's difficult to. That arrogance of I've lost my walk, for want of a better word. So but. I don't do it for the people that come to see me there, and that's not being nasty or negative. I want to catch the random people passing by saying, "Why's that guy talking? Why's the guy with one leg up there? And what's he talking about?" And I want you to listen to realise that forget all your propaganda, your politics, your media, whatever you want to call it. Let's take it down to the basic statement. We're human beings, ordinary working class human beings for the most part, who've been put in a horrific place. Don't treat us like crap.
Yeah.
So, the story, we go back to 2020.
So just before we start that, what were you like about medication before then? Were you hesitant, or did you just take what was going?
No, I never took anything.
All right.
The most I would take is paracetamol.
Did you take flu jabs and stuff like that?
No. No. Don't get me wrong. In a previous life, I worked with profoundly disabled adults, and I worked with the homeless. So therefore, I was working with bodily fluids. So I was vaccinated against Hep C, hepatitis B.
Yeah.
And, that jag takes nearly a year to get. So I was I'm never pro-vaccine, but I wasn't anti-vaccine. I was just a general guy walking about. I didn't have any sway one way or another. Doctors, my medical records show clearly up until this happened to me. Everything that you see in my medical records is sports-related, work-related, injury. It wasn't illnesses as such. It was stupid boys being stupid boys. Sometimes. So no, I didn't have any prior sort of a stance that probably you would more say, yeah, I was pro-vaccine because I took vaccines to go on holiday, took vaccines to work. So yeah, I suppose you could technically say I was pro-vax to a certain extent, and all that. Most people just went ahead and got what you needed.
Yeah. And is that why you got this one? Because I mean, you heard what was going on, and I think you said you were planning on going to abroad for a wedding, weren't you, as well?
That was part of it, but the main reason was we'd just come through a lockdown. We'd done the first lockdown. The whole country, the whole world shut down for that lockdown.
Yeah.
And then we get back. We still didn't have any of these vaccines. People were dying in the street. It was 24/7, and every media you could think of. They were even using the overhead gantries in the motorway, which is actually illegal. You're not allowed to put anything up there that's not related to driving. So anyway, and at 24/7, and they were showing people dying. We'd been through the first lockdown, and now they were we were actually in us and went into the second lockdown. I didn't do the second lockdown. We were classed as key workers. I'm a scaffolder building private houses. And we saw the restrictions that were put in place for us.
Yeah.
So you start to think, hold on, we're talking this thing can last for a week. Started it was 48 hours on surfaces, then it was 72, and at one point it was a week.
Right.
People were contemplating washing down scaffoldings.
Yeah.
Insane, So it wasn't just one person thinking, "Oh, this is a problem." It was the whole bloody world. So when March came round, the vaccines were released in January. We knew they were new. They knew that, but this was done for the right reasons and all that kind of thing. So you're thinking, well, surely they wouldn't put anything out that's really, really that bad. None of that was in my head. I just thought, I don't want other people. I don't want to see people dying in the street. Old people, because they're telling save lives, protect the NHS, do the right thing. So when it came the 20th of March, when I was invited to go and get my vaccine, I thought I was doing the right thing. Not for me. I didn't need it. But I worked with guys in the construction site that were older than me. So I like a lot of these guys, I didn't want to be responsible for giving them something that was going to kill them.
Right.
Because I was brought up to be, I would like to think, a decent human being. Sure. Nobody wants to give somebody something that's going to kill them. And I went the 20th of March, and I was verbally told, you might get a sore arm, and you might have cold flu-like symptoms for 48 hours. And she was bang on. And that was the sum total of the conversation.
Were you given any documentation, any leaflets?
No. And I now know I wasn't alone in that fact. There's many thousands of people that never received anything. But you're thinking the world's at a level where you're talking the whole half of the world's going to die if we don't. So I kind of understood why things were kind of sped up. But never for the life of me was expecting anything. It came, and I was fine after 48 hours.
Yeah. Was it a nurse that injected you, or was that someone or a doctor, or you don't know?
No, it wasn't. I think it was some girl, some nurse or somebody which you think they're qualified. And that's the other fascinating thing. We now know that we're actually taking people off the dole, giving them a 2-day training course, and getting them to inject people. Yeah, the levels of how wrong this is,
Yeah.
just on a moral standpoint, are irrefutable. You know, where did that become normal? But I now know why they've done that. Because the law that they've got is that if you can, it's the person that's liable for giving you informed consent is the person giving the vaccine.
Right. Yeah.
That's just a get out clause.
And you weren't informed. Clearly not.
Clearly not.
Sufficiently. I mean, did they say it was experimental, or that did
No.
No.
Not that I remember. Not that I remember.
Yeah.
And went home. Felt, as I say, by the Monday evening, I was fine. Back to myself. And come the 1st of April, and I've always laughed at the irony of that, you know, you've got to see the humour in that. Yeah. I lifted a really heavy bit of machinery, you know, a piece of scaffolding that should take 2 people to lift it. Scaffolders being that arrogant.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I, you know, lifted and put it into place myself and sat back and thought I'd pulled my calf muscles. And well, did I know where that path was going? You know, within 48 hours, I was still in the same place. My daughter's birthday, and I cancelled. Then on the 4th of April, the Sunday, I got up and I felt really exhausted, as if I'd done a real hard run, marathon, but better. And was getting myself ready and ironed some clothes upstairs and collapsed. My legs just gave way. And I knew the instant I went down, I was in serious trouble. Don't ask me why. I don't know if that's that internal alarm system that we've all got. I knew I was in trouble, and something kept telling me, you need to stay calm, you need to stay calm. And as I tell you, my poor wife was downstairs where I'm just now in the kitchen, with the door closed, and I was upstairs, and I pulled myself down the stairs, head first backwards, which is going to make a hell of a noise. So by the time I hit the landing, she was at the bottom of the next set of stairs, and the first thing, she's like, what's going on? Clearly, and I said, I need you to do 2 things: phone an ambulance and get me a belt, because at that point I could feel something at the bottom of my left leg, and that was the first. Why the belt? Too many war movies, too many westerns, too many gunslingers, old stories of, turn a cool and that'll be fine. It's like the old Janny's school, the janitors always walk about with a bucket of sawdust, because it cures everything, that's when it needs some sawdust. Sorry, where was I there? My brain went.
Well, that's just right. So you, so you called out. You were trying to call out to your wife. She's in the.
Oh yeah. And I don't really remember much after that, to be honest. I got wee snippets of things. The next thing I've came to, I'm in the hospital, and there's a lady, head to toe. All I can see is her eyes and scrubs, and she's saying, "We need to go for a CT scan." And I need your permission, so I signed this form. And the CT scan was still spinning. And she's standing beside me, and she said, "We need to go to theatre, and we need to go right now." Me being the scaffold, I said, "I'll take her in trouble." And she went, "Yeah." And it was the way she said it. I went, How bad? She said, "The worst kind." And all I could think of was, not all I can do is ask you to do and then do your best. That's all I can ask.
And what had they seen then on the scan at that point?
She didn't say.
Okay.
She didn't say. I was given 5 minutes, basically 10 minutes, to phone my daughter and my wife, my 2 daughters, my wife, and effectively say goodbye to them. Unknown to me, they were less than 30 feet away.
Okay.
And in a room, being told by the same doctor that there is no hope. We've never seen anything like this. It's highly unlikely he's going to survive. If he survives, it's likely to be from the waist up. But we don't know what's causing this, but we've never seen anything like this. And I was rushed into theatre, and I spent 7.5 hours in surgery. And when I've come round, the same wee lady standing in scrubs in front of the bottom of my bed, she said, "Do you know who you are?" You know where you are? And I said, well, I know who I am, and I know I'm in a hospital, but I don't know why I'm here, and I don't know what's happened. And she said, well, you shouldn't be here. But here you are.
Wow.
And here we hope you stay. And she kind of told me at that point, you know, what she'd done, that she spent, you know, she'd removed these clots. And I'm saying, clots? She went, yeah. And obviously my left leg was the only place I experienced any kind of pain at this point. A real pain, I suppose, in a manner of words. But she explained that, you know, yeah, multiple clots. And I'm still groggy, and I'm trying to understand. I thought one clot was fatal. And you're telling me multiple. I said, how many clots did I have? And she said, well, we stopped counting after 4 hours. I said, and by this time, that's when I went, whoa, 4, what do you mean stop counting? She said, we were taking clots out of your left leg and your right leg simultaneously. And your lower abdomen. I've got 2 scars that run from the bottom of my groin up to my waist. They basically just opened me up and went straight in at the same time. And that went, you know, she raised there was a concern for my left leg. She was happy with my right leg. And that concern went within 15 minutes to there will be an amputation.
Yes.
I asked at that point for 15 minutes. Could you give me 5-10 minutes? I'd love to say that I got some clarity, but you know, that was 15 minutes of probably every thought you can think of, and lots that you can't. Just get into your head. You don't get a second to it. You don't get the time to grasp any of them, because it's just your head's. It's just a maelstrom of soup, and at that point, I think that's when I knew you're going to have to be really, really strong here. You're going to have to really do something that you've never done before, and that's fight every second of every day. That's a different type of fight. And I made my wife a promise, and I made my 2 daughters a promise that I was coming back.
Yeah.
I asked if there was any hope that it would be a below the knee, because even in that crazy place, you're trying to think, how can I impact this as little as possible? And a below the knee would have allowed me to do pretty much most of my life. I could have went back to scaffolding. In reality, I could have. But sadly, that wasn't to be. They gave me a week, not because I asked for it. It's because I just spent 7.5 hours in surgery that I shouldn't have survived. I wasn't expected to.
You need to recover enough for the next one.
Yeah. And even the amputation, you know, that was a huge gamble as well. Then there was, Christ, we were meant to go on the Saturday, I want to say about 2 o'clock. But my pain levels in that week, particularly the last 4 days, 3-4 days, had went to a level that no human should experience. I was measuring my pain levels between 1 and 20, and I can honestly say 19 was close to losing sanity. I was very close to just saying no more. And the doctor, the anaesthetist came in when he said there's this novel nerve inhibitor that's new, none of my students have seen it, and he can explain this will stop your pain, because by this time the morphine wasn't working.
Right.
And yeah, I was going insane with the pain. And he said, do you mind if my students see it? And me being me went, yeah, no bother.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm in this room, I'll never forget it. Just at that, the door opens and bodies piled in, the curtains get closed, my bed gets shoved against the window, all this machinery piled in, and about 15, 16 people piled into the room. And he then explained how he was going to do this. He said, basically what we do is we go in through your buttock, and that big screen there, we're going to see where I'm going. So I had to turn on my side with 15 to 16 people behind me, my bare ass, out to the world. So they were watching this guy putting this needle, I'm going to say, yeah, but that size, if not bigger, in a mask. I never felt a thing. I think by that point, the pains I was in, that was nothing.
That was going to be nothing, yeah.
And it comes up and there's a little thin hairline. You can see it in the screen. It's like a ultrasound idea.
Yeah.
And he says, see that little star cluster? That's where I'm going. And when he gets close to it and he actually touches it. And it was like, no, remember the old electric lighters you used to, if you've got a misspent childhood like I, you used to break them up and give each other shocks with. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Well, that's the shock it was.
Wow.
My whole body jolted.
Yeah.
And he pulled back and he said, right, where are you now? And my pain levels went from 19 to 5 instantly, and then to 2, and then gone. And luckily, he had taken a blood sample, and I didn't know. And just as we were going through the operation, he halted it because he spotted an anomaly in my blood. And if they'd have used the 8 pints of blood that they had for me, it would have killed me.
Wow.
I didn't know that they can manufacture blood. They spent 7 hours making 8 pints of blood with this anomaly in it. And that's basically how the amputation went ahead. And what woke me up was coming out the operating theatre. See the doors hitting the bed? Going out. That's what woke me up from the amputation a week later. And obviously I had everything in the world built on this below the knee amputation. Then unfortunately it wasn't to be. And that was the darkest moment at that point.
But the fact you found that anomaly, I mean, it's so much of this almost feels like divine intervention, doesn't it? You know, it's like things have come out of the blue that have kept you around.
Well, yeah. Had I went to any other hospital other than Hairmyres, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Had it not been the vascular surgeon that was on duty, who had the foresight to see I've never seen anything like this before, and flagged it with haematology to ask if they'd seen anything like this before. Now that takes a special type of doctor, especially my experience with most medical professionals over the last 3 years now. That shows a lack of arrogance. That shows a knowledge of, this is out my depth.
Yeah.
I need help. The problem is that's not what we've got in most medical professionals. There's an arrogance. I'm a doctor, I know what I'm talking about. Do you? But she wasn't. So that coincidence and the fact that particular anaesthetist, if he hadn't put that nerve inhibitor into the blood sample, I'm not a religious person as such. I believe that if you've got a faith and you get solace from it, that faith is real. That doesn't quite work for me. I've got a slightly different approach to life. But yeah, I shouldn't be here. I know I shouldn't be here. So why am I still here?
Yeah, something happened.
I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
And I've always went through life because of that. It is what it is. Now, sometimes everything happens for a reason. I'll never understand the reasons. I might not accept or agree with the reasons, but everything happens for a reason. And if everything happens for a reason, then I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
Right.
Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because as I said, it comes down to a personal level for me. And I suppose ultimately, if you ask me why I keep going, I don't want to just be a statistic. I don't want to just be a number. I want this to have meant something.
Yes.
To count for something positive, not what it's counted for so far. And I think I do create a lot of solace in that people have reached out and told me that I've helped them in some way. That helps.
Yeah.
It does help.
Well, You really do mean a lot to us, mate. I'll tell you that. You really do.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's, it's a very, very important story. Stories are good in this scenario. This is what people can engage with. They can be given facts and figures, and they can be given narratives, but it's human stories that make the difference. And yours is one of the most important.
All of them are important. I just happen to be the guy that maybe caught the public's attention, or it's maybe because I'm exactly what I am. You see, what you see is what you get. Am I perfect? Am I hell? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But not everybody's my cup of tea. So, I'm not asking you to love me or like me. I'm asking you to acknowledge the fact that this has happened to me. It's happened to people like me, and that we need proper help and support. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you give me proper help and support, and you stop these things and you leave the children alone, I'll fuck off and leave you alone. Until then, I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And that goes back to that thrawn, stubborn, awkward bastard.
Yeah.
I kind of have to, because my mother was clearly such a huge influence on not just my life, all of my family's life. And she was always bang on. She was honest. That was her key, her integrity and her honesty. So therefore, she believed that I was the most thorn, stubborn, awkward bastard she'd ever clapped eyes on. I think I have to honour that now.
Well, you're doing a fine job doing that.
Yeah, well, I do think. I think she's up there sometimes. I do believe that the essence of your family never leave you. The spirits of them. And people really ask me who am I? Why am I the way I am? And I say it's because my mother's the way she was, and my grandfather was the way he was. I find it ironic that the man that had made more influence on me in life spent the last 12 years of his life in a wheelchair.
Funny, yeah.
The irony in that, and he was so respected because he had morals, ethics, standards and principles. Mine's are slightly different from his because it was a different time, different life. But ultimately, that lesson of you set those and do not water them down, do not add to them, because you know that if you stick to them, that's what makes you happy. So I'm always going to try and be happy.
And that's what our organisation is all about. So we are the voice of medical ethics in this country. This is what we're trying to drive home, that there is an ethical principle to everything, and especially people's bodies and lives and the way they lead them, the freedom they should be allowed to lead them, and the fact that you shouldn't be allowed to do anything with your body unless you fully consent and you understand exactly what the ramifications could be. And if nothing else, this is what your story is going to help drive home.
But I think what organisations like what you're doing is so important, because there is good doctors out there. There is really good medical professionals. And people say to me, why are we not hearing from these people? And I'll say, for the same reasons why you don't hear about people like me. Because they're actively silenced, ignored, gaslit, shut down, censored. The censorship gets to a ridiculous level. I actually made this comment yesterday. We wonder why we have such a deep set distrust of the media in this country. All we need to do is look at the lies that they print.
Yeah.
That really, the fact that a magazine with 6 million followers can publish a picture of someone and call them an anti-vax and a conspiracy theorist when that person's in a wheelchair, a vaccine injured. I would love to have the money and I would love to sue them. Because that's a case I know I can win.
Yeah.
But that's the level we're at, where we're ordinary working class guy I could be from anywhere in the UK, any council estate, any scheme, whatever you want to call it. I'm just an ordinary guy, no different from anybody else. And if they can silence me and try and shut me down and do that to me, what do you think they can do to you? These people don't care about people like me, so why should I care about people like them?
Yeah.
I'll see my day with these people. The day will come. Mm-hmm. Because, as I've said it more and more now, you can't ignore me, you can't deny me, and you can't refute me, and you can't never unsee me.
Absolutely.
And we will get there. Humanity will always get there. It's survived for all these years with certainly far more intelligent people than I. And it will keep surviving. But we need to do one thing, we need to keep telling the truth. Sure.
The truth will set us free, I think, is the phrase, isn't it? And that's what we need to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really grateful for your time. I don't want to keep you anymore. We've had a nice, good hour, nearly hour and a half, I think, so together, and it's just flown by. I can't believe how quickly that's gone.
It's been very quick, yeah.
But
all we keep doing is we go and do what we do again.
Yeah.
People say to me, why do I do the amount of podcasts that I do? I said, because it's about getting the truth out there.
Yeah.
And it's on record.
Absolutely.
And I'm doing what my lawyer told me what to do.
Yeah.
He said, make yourself that visible that they can't make you invisible. Can't hide my story now.
No. Well, look, let's keep in touch. We'll
yes, definitely.
As and when things change, it'll be good to do this again with an update. And so I'm really, really grateful for your time.
No, thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate it. This is where we need to be. We need to have more people talking about, not individuals, but collectively. You're right. My story's irrelevant in many ways. It's the story that there is people like me. That's what this, and there's no help and support.
No.
And that's what ultimately, until that changes, you and I will continue to have conversations like this.
All right. Well, thanks ever so much, and I'll speak to you very soon. You take care. All right.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.